Gen Z is going to become the first generation in recent American history to be poorer than their parents. That's not a theory, that's not an opinion, that's real world data. And for the most of my life, I thought I was going to do everything right to escape that. University abroad, 4.33 GPA, IB diploma, valedictorian, 5 years of grinding, failing, grinding again, just to sit at the top of my class. And I looked at the math. I actually looked at it. And I decided to drop out. Because what I realized is what nobody tells you. It's not that the system is broken. In fact, it's working exactly the way it was designed. It's just not designed for you. In this video, I'm going to break down the 3 mechanisms the system uses to keep you financially stuck, and what I'm personally doing about each one. I'm 19 years old. I dropped out of university with a 4.33 GPA, and I'm building in public towards one goal: retiring my family by 25 and starting my own. I'm not here to sell you a course. I'm documenting every single step, every single mistake, every single victory in real time. If that's the kind of content you want, subscribe right now as I post every single Saturday. Let's get into it. Alright, 3 mechanisms. Because this isn't just school bad. In fact, school's pretty good. This is structural, and once you see it, you can never unsee it. Mechanism number 1, the debt trap. The average student graduates with $37,000 in debt. That's before they made a single dollar. And entry-level salaries haven't kept up. The cost of living for people under 30 has outpaced wage growth for over a decade. So you start your life in this hole of debt, and compound interest works against you before you even begin. If my parents graduated with 100 grand of debt, and that was in the 90s, well then what debt would I graduate with? I saw the math, and that's why I left. Mechanism number 2, the credential treadmill. Here's what the traditional path actually looks like. You get a degree, you get an entry-level position, you get a 2% raise every year, you work for 40 years, and then you retire. That's the plan. And you know what? It actually worked for a world where degrees were scarce. And they're not anymore. Everyone and their mom has a degree. Literally, there's degrees about all sorts of nonsense. They even make up fake ones. So the degree you're spending $40,000 for is devaluing every single year, and your salary will never catch up to inflation. This isn't an anti-work argument, it's literally just basic math. Mechanism number 3, the financial illiteracy gap. Gen Z has the highest financial anxiety of any generation on recent record, and nobody taught us these things. No one taught us taxes, no one taught us investment, no one taught us how to build a system, no one taught us anything, not in school, not at home, and even most of our parents who are working in the same system couldn't even teach us anything. We were taught compliance. We were never taught capital allocation. The wealth gap isn't accidental, it's structural, and the structure was never built with you in mind. Now I know what you're thinking, plenty of people succeed with degrees, but that's because the system works if you're in the top 10%. If you're going to become a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer, or if you're willing to work in the same career for decades, the return on investment is real. But I'm talking to the other 90%, the people grinding for a credential that isn't going to pay what they were promised. I went to university for photography. That degree costs just the same as engineering. Not to mention, the equipment itself would end up costing just as much as the degree. And if you're thinking, well, you just dropped out because you're bitter. I had a 4.33 GPA. I was valedictorian. I wasn't failing. I was strategically choosing to stop spending time in school. But this video isn't just about negativity. In fact, I don't want to be negative. It's about the alternatives and what they actually look like. So let me show you. Here's my story. I grew up watching my family work hard, like genuinely hard. For example, my mother grew up in literal slums. She barely had any parents in her life, and she moved out the house at 14 years old. She got her butt in gear, got an amazing education, and now is making very good money. But it was never enough. Not because she wasn't smart, not because she didn't try, in fact she did. It was because the system that she was operating within had a ceiling, and that ceiling is lower than it's ever been for our generation. When I was 14, I started the IB program. For 4 years I grinded. I had really bad tests, I had depression and even suicide. But once I met some real competition, I ended out with a 95% average and a full diploma, even valedictorian. And when I joined my first year of university, that's when I sat down and actually crunched the numbers. The math didn't add up. So I built different math. I call it solving problem 0. Everyone wants to become successful, but no one knows how to build a business and get their first clients. Everyone wants to become a good husband, but no one knows how to become a godly man. And so I solve problem 0. The difficulties we don't even know we're about to face before we want to achieve something. And it has 3 principles I'm actually living by. Not theory, not just YouTube content, my actual operating system. Step number 1, you need to build skills, not just credential. Sure, degrees are amazing and they do work, as well as legacy and influence and experience and reputation, but you can only sell what the market pays for. That's why students are moving towards the skilled trades, because they immediately get paid for degrees that cost much less, that is based on foundational skills that people currently pay for. There's no middleman and there's no institution gatekeeping your value. You get paid for how good you are. In fact, that's why doctors and engineers are so successful, because a really good doctor and a really good engineer will do certainly much better than a bad one. If you can solve a real problem for a real person, you can get paid right now, not in 4 years, but right now. I started with business consulting, not because it was glamorous, but because it's direct. Someone has a problem, I solve it, I get paid. That's the whole model. Step number 2, build income before you invest. The personal finance world loves to talk about investing, and they're right, but that's eventually, because you cannot compound what you don't have. So get a job. Right now, I'm working at a park because I just got a promotion. It's not glamorous, but I'm working so I can invest into myself. I can buy ChatGPT Premium. I can buy a course to invest into. I can buy a book to study that's about business. I can buy a gym membership. I can buy some sort of school account if I want to host a school community. But listen to me, it doesn't make sense to immediately invest into stocks and bonds, or even a high interest savings account. For example, if you're making $28,000 a year and putting $200 a month into an index fund, that's not going to retire your parents, especially by 25. You need income first, build the income, then compound it. Why? Well, most banking institutions, even for their high interest savings account, are barely enough to escape inflation. You would need anything over 2% to escape inflation reliably, and most high interest savings account really top out around 3%. And so how do people, millionaires even, recommend these things? Well, it's because they don't use what we use. If you look, every single banking institution, TD, for example, has a private system reserved for people with a certain threshold of income, oftentimes millionaires if not billionaires. TD has what's called TD Waterhouse. It's a specialized system that has incredibly high interest savings accounts, often at 9, 10, 11, and 12% interest. That allows millionaires to really make bang on their buck. But what if you went into stocks? S&P 500, for example, would need at least a couple grand invested into it over a year, so that way you'd make just enough to overcome inflation reliably. Now, on the other hand, you can do more risky investments, such as cryptocurrency or sports betting, and that is possible. However, that would take years and years to learn, and the whole point of dropping out of university was to not waste your money and to not spend years learning skills people don't want. Step 3, document the path. This channel isn't a side project, it's the accountability mechanism. When you build in public, when you put every step, every failure, every decision on record, you don't get to hide. You don't get to just quietly quit. And that consistency, that's the compound effect. It's linear input, exponential returns. It's not from investing, it's from just showing up regularly. That's solving problem 0. You get skills, you get income, you document it. And when you document things, you build long-term credibility. That's how you turn businesses into multi-billion-dollar businesses, because people trust you. But I want to be honest with you for a second. This has been a hard journey. I've lost every single friend I've ever had, and I've even ruined the relationship I have with my family. I've had real conversations with them, people who've worked their whole lives inside the system I'm walking away from, and they love me and are genuinely scared for me. These are the days I question it, not the goal, not if the goal is clear, but the path, the timeline, whether I'm moving fast enough, whether it's even possible to retire my family by 25. Those are real doubts. And I think that's the part nobody talks about when you want to improve yourself as a man. The people online make it look clean, they make it look easy. They build their skills, they make money, they repeat it. But the psychological weight of betting on yourself every day when everyone around you is betting on the traditional path is heavy. And I'm not going to pretend it's not. So comment below, what's the biggest fear you have about walking away from the traditional path? I read and reply to every single one. Now, what is the alternative path to success? It's not always dropping out. Let me be clear. If you're in school and if school's working for you, stay in school. Even though I was in a really bad program, I still decided to stay in school until I knew my system worked, until I knew I could acquire clients, and until I knew I could make money from my system. Use school as a safety net while you build on the side. That's the smart move. The alternative is this. Stop outsourcing your financial education to a system that was never designed to make you wealthy. That's the first step. Not a $3,000 course, not a guru problem, just one skill, one paying client, and one step forward. I'm building this in real time. And if you're facing a specific problem right now and you want to talk it through, my business email is in the description of the video. I actually respond, and if not that, there's a bunch of helpful links in the description for you to check out. And if you look at them, you'll notice they're all free. I'm also going to start a community soon, a space where we can build this together, a space where young entrepreneurs can overcome the same difficulties and actually work with each other. I'll drop the link in the description of this video the moment it's live. So if this video hits different, subscribe. Every Saturday I drop a new video built around one question: how can I solve problem 0? Next week, I'm breaking down why starting a side hustle might be the worst advice for Gen Z ever received, and what we can do instead. You're gonna want to see that one. I outline literally every single step on building a successful business using your own ideas. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.